Hello everyone and welcome back to the TheFootballZone Podacst, episode number 12 today, and we've got a mint guest on today. We've got Geoff. How are you doing, Geoff?
I'm very well indeed. How are yourselves? All right?
Not too bad at all. So Geoff, I was going to introduce you, but introduce yourself.
Geoff Eltringham. I'm a Football League referee based in Sunderland. I have been for the last 12-14 years and predominantly referee Championship football.
I was going to say, how did you get into refereeing? How did you start your career then?
Probably because I was a pool footballer.
That's the most of the referees.
That's the most route that most
so
referees
instead of
go
doing
down.
coaching, you went refereeing.
Exactly that, and that sums it up. To be fair, it's I played football at school, not at a particularly high level. I played in goal, but at 5'7", that was never really going to work unless I wanted to make a professional five-a-side player, which wasn't going to happen. And it was a school game, and quite typical. I was on the bench, and waiting for the referee to turn up at a school game, and nobody showed. So it was either someone step in and do it, or get the game called off. And I said, look, I'll give it a go. Don't know how it'll be, but I took the whistle and got through the game. Got a little bit of stick through it. But it was stick that I could deal with, and I was like, okay, I might have a look into this. Yeah. And I'm being honest, I was getting to a stage where I love football. Absolutely, football is my life. Yeah. But being honest to myself, was I really going to achieve what I wanted to achieve in playing football? Mm-hmm. I didn't see the coaching route as an opportunity. Didn't really fancy that at that time. So I said, look, why not? I enrolled in a referee course, and that was pretty much it. That was the start of it. Although it was a slow burner, it was that was the start of how I got into refereeing.
How old were you at that point? So you were in school?
Yeah, it was in last year at senior school, so 15, 16 when I first done it unofficially, and then passed the course at 16. So what am I now? You do the math. 43 now, so 27 years or whatever it is now I've been doing it.
Have you enjoyed refereeing?
I absolutely love it, and I think it's your cliche, but I think the day when I stopped enjoying refereeing is the day to see it.
Yeah. Did you enjoy it from that first day? The first day that you did it, that first?
I got a bit of a buzz, and whether it's because some of the lads from school were saying, you're doing all right there, and this, that, the other, and you got a bit of a pat on the back. Yeah. And I enjoyed it, but the first 2 years of refereeing for me was the hardest 2 years, and if any advice I'll give the referees coming through was, just stick with it give it a couple of seasons, because you'll have teams, you'll have players trying it on. They'll see a new kid on the block, they'll see somebody new to the game. If you're refereeing a burly 35-year-old centre half who's been there, done it, maybe he's played at a decent level, coming on the way down, they'll try everything. Now you've got the parents on the sideline as well if it's a youth game. And they were tough the first 2 years. There's many times I've come in from a game and slammed me bag in the corner and said, I'm not having it, but something got us back doing it again. Got them out the way. I think you earn your stripes, so to speak, and then crack on from there, really.
I was going to say, because you've said that you get a lot of stick from parents, you get a lot of stick from like other players as well. As you're not coaching, you're refereeing at quite a high level in terms of the championship. There's a lot of fans in the stadium. When you make a decision, you hear that roar, the sort of reception, say like if it's a foul or not a foul. What's your sort of feeling when that happens? When you hear that roar and when you blew that whistle, like
you've got to switch off to it in a sense of blocking certain things out. You can referee in front of 30,000, and it's a group noise. You're not really affected by that. It tends to be the ones where you're refereeing in a smaller ground, less supporters. You can hear
each individual comment.
Yeah. If you've got 30,000 saying the referees or whatever it might be, that's all right. And I think the key is just not to take it personal, because football's it's a passionate sport. I've also said that, and some things are said in heat, some things are said in haste, and normally afterwards on reflection people can calm down and mellow a little bit, and you can have a sensible conversations, and it's a heat of the moment thing. There is an issue. There is problems in the game with abuse, certainly lower down level, and obviously assaults and refereeing is becoming more prominent at a certainly lower level. But ultimately, I think you've just got to have a thick skin. Got to understand that the comment that they're making potentially isn't meant. You just don't take it personal. 'Cause I think if you do take it personal, you probably wouldn't last very long in refereeing. Yeah. It's just
what was it like refereeing during COVID times? Because obviously you went from full stadiums to empty or just about empty stadiums back to full stadiums. What was that period like?
It was surreal, to be honest, because I think nobody's been in an environment that way. They had that environment in the past, and it's just having the mental strength, I suppose, just to say treating it as a game, because normally if you referee in front of empty stadiums or nobody there, it's more of a training ground feel, training ground mentality, but ultimately the players don't treat it that way. The players are still up for the game. There's 3 points to be won, there's leagues to be won, everything still works. Promotion, relegation, cup finals, semi-finals. So it's just having that mindset of going into it as if there is a crowd there. It's you get much more of a buzz refereeing in front of supporters game. But I must admit, COVID did have a couple of plus points. You would jump in your car 20 minutes after the game and you'd be home an hour earlier than normally when you're not fighting in traffic getting out of it. But it's a game full of it's a game for supporters, and to getting that buzz out the crowd and getting that adrenaline rush, and it's just making you G yourself up, I suppose, that little bit more before.
I was going to say, one of our questions was, how do you get prepared for a game, sort of, if there's difficult players that you've refereed before and difficult teams or difficult managers, how do you prepare yourself for a game and make sure you manage it correctly?
My mindset is, you go into a game, not mentioning any names, but it's 11v11, no matter what the personnel's playing. And then you could, we'll do our research. We know what teams are playing. We know team lineups. Previous history. It's a full-time job for us. So obviously, of course, it's like any profession. You want to be your best at your profession. You'll do as much work around that as you can. But if I've got a mindset of thinking, I may have a tricky player playing here, and I put all my attention onto that player, the likelihood is it's probably going to be somebody else that creates that problem. So. It's a case of just going in there, and it's 90 minutes of football. Everybody starts afresh, and it's a game full of situation. It's a game full of incidents, and it's a game full of challenges. And it's how we deal with that certain challenges, not so much of that certain individual. I think refereeing's a people's game. I always say you've got to know the laws of the game. You've got to know the rules of football or the laws of football. But my Mrs. Emma, I could give her the laws of the game book, and she could probably read the laws and understand them more than I could. But can she manage somebody when they're up a height, when they're frustrated, when they're feeling aggrieved? I think a skill of refereeing is just trying to get on their level of a player and bring them down to where you want to, or bring him or bring her down to where you want to bring them, and just never leave that player angry. So before we restart play, before we kick off a game, just make sure that player, as much as we can, is in a good space. The last thing we want is leave them up a height and you blow your whistle, and 2 seconds later, 3 seconds later, they're putting a tackle in. You're left having to deal with that. You haven't left to deal with that. But we understand it's every game has a challenge, and it's sometimes it's just, you might look at the game and you think, it's, 2 teams middle of the table here. This could be running apart. Nah, not at all. Them are the games that tend to bite you where it hurts at times. So it's just being prepared as much as professionally prepared as much as you can for every challenge.
Are those people's skills sort of that you've spoke about there, what you've worked on over the years, have come as you've progressed through working with different people, like different types of personalities on the pitch?
100%. Before I refereed, I think it stemmed a little bit before that. So before refereeing was a full-time job, I worked in the building trade. I was a sales rep. So I think it's going in there and being able to have that little bit banter, being able to have that little bit rapport with people. So they, at that time, so they bought things from you. I think refereeing's no different. You've got to be able to get on that wavelength of a player, get that player believing and trusting in what you're doing. They mightn't always agree with it. That's the nature of the beast. But you're trying to get the respect, and it goes both ways. Respect of the players, we give them respect. And I just all find that if you normally do that, if the players can buy in at what you're doing, it doesn't make it easy. Potentially it makes it easier for 90 minutes. And I think the last thing we want to do is just be dismissive. Player comes running at you, no, I'm not talking to you. That's no way to win a player over. That's no way to deal with a certain situation. We're human beings. How does a human like to be dealt with? Human to human. But there's times when there might be a captain. We try and use a captain as much as we can. But there may be a captain there that I can't work with. for whatever reason, it might be a clash of personalities. I might have had previous one in the past where I may have sent him off and he hasn't forgiven us, or she hasn't forgiven us for it. So I think then it's just got to adopt a strategy of, right, if I can't deal with that person, who can I deal with? So there's always somebody in a team of 11 that you can think, right, I can maybe have a little rapport. If I can't speak to the captain, I'll speak to the number 2 and, look, I've got a situation here, can you help me out? And ultimately, they know the players. They know the players a lot more than I know the players.
100%.
So if they can help that situation, that scenario, why wouldn't you use that strategy? That strategy.
So you said in the last sort of answer, like anyone can sort of pick up the rules and sort of learn the rules. In today's game, you see obviously a lot of like sort of misjudgment of what a certain rule is, or like a little bit of inconsistency this season, especially in the Premier League with sort of tackles and red cards and sending offs and stuff like that. Would you ever think about, would you ever think this is a good idea to do a rule reset and sort of rewrite the book so it's more understandable for players, referees, and the spectators? Would you ever, obviously you're not in a position where you can just swipe the whole thing, but if you were in the position where you could reset, would you reset it?
I think the rules are there for a reason, or the laws of the game, that they're there for a reason, and I think we've got to be thorough in our understanding. But I think everybody has. I think if you listen to certain commentators on the TV and the MMA comment about a certain thing that's the contrary to what law states, I don't think the issue tends to be with referees and officials not understanding law, because that's our bread and butter. That's our holy Bible of football, so to speak. The laws of the game. But it's a human aspect, so no matter how well we know something, the human factor is that we're always potentially going to read something wrong. And I don't think that's... If I read a penalty situation wrong, which I've done many a time in my career, I don't think that's not me understanding law. It's just me reading the situation wrong, and I think that's always going to happen. VAR, which I'm sure we'll probably come on to, helps. Will help that scenario, they'll help that situation, but you can't take the human aspect out of it. Once you do that, I think it becomes far less of a game. People still need to be taught about certain incidents afterwards. It's a human element. Something to talk about in the pub after the game, or and ultimately what I may think is a foul is one of my colleagues' my thing is, so it's always going to have you're going to have it's opinionated game, it's opinionated sport, and I don't think we can take that away. VAR's for me is fantastic in a sense where if a mistake or an error is being made and it's obvious to everybody, it's clear and obvious, and why we not use VAR, and we want that, we are going to read things wrong, we are going to get things wrong, so why would we not want the support and the help to potentially get it right when we can.
So how many referees are within your sort of league? Are they all under the same contract as you, or are they all based from the same sort of?
Yeah, we're under the same umbrella, the PGMOL. They're our governing body, so to speak. You've got a list of 20 full-time Premier League referees. You've got a list of 19 full-time SG2 referees, which is classed as Select Group 2, which is Championship referees. And Premier League assistants, they're also contracted as well. You go down to League 1, League 2, they're more of a part, and they're not on a contract as such. They're self-employed, so to speak. So it's the best thing that's ever happened to me refereeing football. Just to see it, something is my job, and I can solely commit to a full time. You've seen us knocking about the gym quite a bit. Not saying how much time I spend in the gym. It's more than the coffee, having a cup of coffee afterwards. But it's just to be able to prepare full time and give it your all. The championship for me it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. There's some high profile teams in there. There's some high profile players, and we've just got to give ourselves the best opportunity to be able to deliver a game of football. In the past, when I was employed, when this wasn't my full-time job, you'd have the mental strength to be able to switch things off, switch off from certain things as you're refereeing games, but ultimately I may have been working until 1 o'clock in the afternoon doing my job, driving to a game down to Forest or Sheffield, whatever it was, do the game, jump in my car 10:30, 11 o'clock after the game at night, get home 2 o'clock in the morning, and ultimately I'll be back to work the next morning. And it's finding that it can be difficult at times when there's a break in play. You're thinking, "Wow, I forgot to do that at work." I haven't done that. Now you can just solely concentrate on football. You're always going to have your home life. You can put that to one side during the 90 minutes football and during the preparation. But it's just to help you prepare, even to give you that extra 1%, which I believe it gives you more than that. It's just, it's so beneficial for me.
What sort of preparation do you do on the lead up to a game then, like days before or match day sort of thing?
Yeah, so back to front in a sense. So after the game on the Saturday, I tend to use a Sunday as a family day. I'll have a switch off, do what we need to do. I've got two little kids, 7 and 8, so normally they keep us occupied. They keep us busier. And I think being away from home, I think you need that. You need the time just to switch off and have a day off from football. So that tends to be my Sunday. Then I pick up things again on the Monday. So on the Monday morning, I'll have a review. I'll have a reflect of what's going on the Saturday. Football analysts in our organisation, absolutely tremendous. So all the clips, everything we want from that game on the Saturday is there.
They send them straight.
Yeah, it's all pretty much within a couple of hours of the game finish, and everything's online for us, and we can clip. And then I'll have a review with one of my coaches, how the game's gone. I think that's self-led at times. I'll clip certain things and think I'm happy with this, and could that have been better, and what was my position like here, and did I read that incident right? And we'll have a review, we'll have a reflection. But then come 4 o'clock on the Monday afternoon is when we get our appointment for the following Saturday.
Yeah.
So once that appointment comes in, everything that's gone before that is now put to one side.
Yeah.
So we've reflected, how can we improve, how can we do better, what's gone well. But come 4 o'clock, the appointment drops by email. Right, I'm off to Bristol City this Saturday.
Yeah.
So all my focus is on how do I prepare for that? So easy this week. There hasn't been a midweek cluster of fixtures, so I've had Tuesday. So train normal. With us not having a game on the Tuesday, we'd normally have a HI session, a replica pitch session out in the fields. A little bit difficult in the snow this week, but done that in the gym. A couple of strength sessions, and now our focus is just totally on the game. We'll get certain things, certain information that'll help us prepare for the game on the Saturday.
Yeah.
Bristol's 300 mile for me, so that involves me going down on the Friday. I'll meet up with a couple of colleagues on the Friday night, Saturday morning at the hotel, prepare for the game. We share certain things, share experiences, and then just prepare yourself as best you can for that game on the Saturday, and just like I've already alluded to, anything that can give you that extra 1%. Is a good thing, It's so much. Certain teams have got certain strategies, certain tactics, and it's not going in there and doing our due diligence and everything. It's just being aware of the things that might help us during the game without going in and looking at individual players or individual teams. It's just anything that can give you that best bit of prep.
So you're talking about reviewing sort of clips from games and stuff like that. Do you ever do is it with just you and your analyst sort of? Yeah.
So the analyst, all the footage is on there. I tend to run through the whole 90 minutes of the game, watch it through. Sometimes when there's nothing much happening in the game, that might speed it up a little bit on +2, +4, whatever it may be. And then just pick certain things out, make a note of certain minutes of that's happened, certain instances. You know yourself, if you're refereeing a game, might be a claim for a penalty, might be a shout for a penalty, and that's already registered, it's already clocked. And we don't get another look at it until potentially we see it on the highlights when we get home, or till the footage lands. We can't review laptops. Club will have analysts, and they'll come in and say, "Can you have a look at this clip?" And we aren't able to do that. We have to wait until our footage comes till we have a look or till we have a reflect. And I think it's all about just trying to be honest. We are going to make mistakes. We are going to make errors. But it's understand the reason how that's coming. I think if you can come up with a reason what's been led to making that error, I think that's you can accept that. Hard on the clubs, hard on the supporters, because I've been there before I refereed. I had a season ticket at Sunderland for a few years, and you're looking at games, and if a result didn't go your way, it would spoil your weekend. So you understand exactly what supporters go through, what teams go through, what managers go through. It is their livelihood, it's our livelihood as well. We've got to be on the ball. We've got to perform week in, week out, and the pressure gets higher, the stakes get higher. But it's all about us as humans, and certainly me, just how can I improve myself, how can I make myself better to make sure I'm on top of the game.
Yeah. How did that come up to the championship work then, like going up those steps and climbing up that ladder of refereeing? How was that? Was it tough?
It was tough, and I always, tell the story. The first few years of his qualifying, I was refereeing pretty much Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I had a season ticket at Sunderland, and I'm saying it was probably the glory years of Sunderland at the time when they finished 7th under Peter Reid for 2 years in a row. But I loved me Saturdays. I loved going to Sunderland, the Sunderland matches, home and away. And I'll be totally honest, the refereeing side of it was just a bit pocket money. It would pay for me weekends and was my heart really in it for the right reasons at that time. So for the first 3-4 years after qualifying, that pretty much was the line I followed. And I refereed a game on a Sunday morning, and it was a Silsworth ski slope, and there's 2 pitches side by side. I was refereeing on one field, and there was an observer, an assessor, there to watch a referee on the other field, and that game was off. So the assessor stayed and watched my game. Didn't know the fella at the time. He came to Spores and he says, after the game, how long have you been refereeing? And I says, 4 years. He says, what do you do on a Saturday? I said, well, I'll go and watch Sunderland.
I'll go watch a football.
And he said, I think you've got a chance. He says, he says, what I've seen, he says, I think you've got a chance. He says, but you need to make some sacrifices. He says, you need to know what you want out of refereeing. If you just want refereeing Sunday morning and be a hobby, crack on, do what you're doing. He says, but I think you're better than that. So it was a tough decision at the time, but I decided at the end of that season, just give the Sunderland season ticket up and concentrate solely on refereeing and give it a good go. So if I've got any regrets in refereeing, is probably not taking it as serious as I could have for the first 4 or 5 years. So after that, I was refereeing on a Saturday, started off in some youth leagues on a Saturday, some semi-pro football on Saturday afternoon, refereed the Wayside League, Northern League, then built it up Northern Premier League, Conference, then got an opportunity to referee on the Football League, probably 5-6 years after me taking it serious. So there's opportunities. The opportunity have never been bigger in refereeing as you are now. But you've got to make sacrifices. If you want to do it as a hobby and a bit pocket money, fine. But if you want to take it serious, you've got to put the hours in. And like I said before at the start of this, the first couple of years was tough. Really tough. And you think, is it for me? Get them out of the way, and you see the opportunities. And for me, the higher you get, the easier it becomes refereeing because the quality of football
gets better.
I was going to say, can you feel the standard change as you're going up?
Yeah. So even a supply league, which was Wayside League at that time, going from Sunday morning to refereeing in the Wayside League or Northern League was a massive step up at that moment in time. Yeah. But then you go one step further and you're refereeing the Northern Premier League or Conference North, and that step goes further as well. So the expectations are higher. So you're not having to deal with, if somebody puts a tackle in and it's a mistimed tackle, it's a reckless tackle, they're probably expecting a caution. That happens on Sunday morning, they'll argue black is blue, that's it's never a yellow card, never a foul, never mind a caution. So I think the expectations are higher, the quality tends to be a little bit better, the pitches are better, so a ball tends to go from A to B rather than A to D. You haven't got a sore neck of looking in the air so much, you can concentrate. And I honestly believe, if you get through the first few years and start climbing that ladder, if you've got a bit of quality, a bit of ability and the belief, I think you can progress up the refereeing ranks quite quickly.
Yeah. So you're saying your progression options there.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider maybe refereeing in the Premier League?
Yeah, that's not a choice by me. It's,
if you got the opportunity.
Got the opportunity, yeah, of course. I'm still ambitious. I'm 43 years old, so I've been refereeing Football League now for 12, 13 years. The aim was to get as high as I could,
Yeah.
And you have.
I've gotten a lot higher than I thought when I refereed that game at Farringdon School 20 odd years ago. It's a lot higher now than I thought it was ever going to be. But once you're there, you want to go that step further. Yeah. Now, we've got some fantastic referees in this country. The fact that you've had Michael Oliver, Anthony Taylor at the latter stages of the World Cup just shows the quality of what we've got in this country of refereeing. So it's difficult to get that next step and that next opportunity. But I'll keep striving. We're under a evaluation system, so where we haven't got a man in the stand or a woman in the stand monitoring our performance, it's evaluated. So every decision throughout the 90 minutes, whether it be throw in, whether it be goal kick, is that right? Is that wrong?
Yeah.
And we judge on that. So there's an evaluation system that's in place. You know, we've got to try and get the best I can on that, and obviously clubs have got to say in it as well. So clubs will monitor us and have a say, and they'll mark us, and that goes a little bit towards where we go. So the ultimate aim is love to referee in the Premier League, love to even if we won Premier League game, that'd be absolutely fantastic for me. But at the same time, you know, like
you're happy.
I'm like a kid at Christmas. You know, I'm happy as Larry. You know, doing what I'm doing. But you can't rest on your laurels. You know, you always strive to improve, and I know if that stood still, there'd be people coming there and overtake us and want me job, and it's you know, it's there's opportunities there. You know, so you've always got to maintain your standards. Always got to be all cliches, but be the best you can, improving what you're doing, and ultimately not just say, right, I'm 43, I'll be happy for the next 5-6 years. No, you know, I want to strive to get better and better and better, and if an opportunity comes, fantastic. If it doesn't, you know, it's I'm still over the moon where I'm at.
Do you know how you're saying about the qualities of the referee in England? What sort of things did your governing body have in place and the FA have in place to make sure that quality is always at the top level? Like throughout the season, there's a training courses, what?
Yeah, so as a group, certainly SG Select Group 2, we tend to meet twice a month, have 2-day training camps, whether it be at St George's Park or whether it be at Loughborough University. You know, the facilities,
they're top notch.
They're top notch. We'll reflect, you know, we'll go through things that have gone well, we'll go through things that we could improve on. The sports scientists are absolutely superb. We got our own individual training programs with GPS units, heart rate monitors, so everything's monitored. And you know, they look at how we're training. Can we change something there? Can we adapt something? What will give us the best opportunity? We've got sports psychologists. You know, everything is there that we need to potentially to succeed, to give us the best opportunity. And it's how much you buy into that certain thing. You know, if I've got the tools there to use, you know, why would I not use them? You know, their disposal. And I think it'll feed down as well. You know, the support from refereeing in this country is getting better. The investment's getting a lot better. And like you said before, there's opportunities now from potentially refereeing at semi-professional football to refereeing Football League. You can maybe do that 4 or 5 years if you're good enough. If you dedication and commitment. There's opportunities there for everybody.
100%. I've got a question of sort of in terms of the offside rule.
Oh, don't ask me.
So like the offside rule came in to prevent goal lounging. And obviously the game has evolved a lot more from when they first were playing football. So like now we're looking at these tiny margins of millimetres and tiny little margins of that. My sort of suggestion, I mean obviously this would go nowhere, but instead of it being if a tiny bit of you is offside because like it's your natural lean of your body, you're kind of getting to start a sprint, so maybe as your shoulders offside or something like that. Instead of that, would it not be, I mean, obviously, again, this is never get implemented, but the last sort of bit of the attacker that's onside, sort of, it could be the trailing foot or the furthest part of the body that's back. If it's still in line with the furthest part of the defender forward, that's technically not goal lounging because they are still timing their runs. It's not that. Sort of...
It kind of goes with, like, goal line technology and if the full ball's over the line.
A line works both ways.
I think it's important that when it comes to offside, and believe you me,
offsides are tough.
And they are. And the accuracy calls of assistant referees in the Premier League, Football League, is actually top notch. So 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, they get these decisions right. But it's so tough. It's an art in itself to run the line. It really is. You know, we do a little bit of training on assistant refereeing, and what I try to do, I'll still because ultimately I referee. You know, I don't do any assistant refereeing.
Yeah.
But I'll still 2-3 times a season, if there's an opportunity to do a game, whether it be a under-19s game or whatever it might be, I'll pick a flag up, and I know how difficult it is. But going back to your question on, you know, what tweaks could be made or what could we do to potentially improve it, I think there's always going to be tweaks. I remember a few years ago it used to be daylight. If there was daylight between two players, they'd be deemed to be onside or offside. Now that's become, whether it be a sleeve, whether it be a head, whether it be an arm, whether it be a back heel, I think it's just so important that supporters understand, or footballers understand, clubs understand offside. Yeah. Because when there's a grey area, I think that's when
there's issues.
When there's issues. I haven't got the answer. I think your suggestion could be a good suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're not saying that's ever going to get him. But it's like the way the line works. Yeah. For a ball, it's like if the whole ball's over the line, or if a tiny bit of the ball's still on the line, it's still in play. But then if the player's slightly over the line, but the 99% of his body's still behind the line, he's not past the line. So it's that grey area between the rules, but it's how the rules are written at the end of the day. And to be fair, it's a sport. The sport's been around for a long time, so there's bound to be stuff like that within the rules that are complicated. And
I watch Premier League football, and certainly with VAR and everything now, I think from the outside world, I think offside now it seems to be factual. Yeah. So if there's somebody with a toe offside, no matter how many mil his toes offside, then people can accept it, can live with it, because it's a factual decision. And people say, well, if the line was thinner or if the line was thicker, but then how do you draw the line? There's always got to be a cut off somewhere, hasn't there? There's always going to be that. But it's just, I wish I had the answers. You know, it's at the minute, it's all about the transparency with supporters and how is that decision being able to be sold to supporters, and that's key. There's always going to be little tweaks. There's always going to be little things changed, and I think it's just understanding that. But it's going back to earlier on, I'm pleased my days of waving a flag in the air are gone, because I tell you what now, but some supporters might think I'm a hopeless referee, but I was even worse assistant referee. So.
Is that tough? Like, what challenges do you face upon like assistant refereeing? So when you're on that sideline,
it's just knowing when that it's an art, because it's knowing when that ball is first being played. You know, how can you look 40-50 yards to when that's being played, and also keep an eye on the line. It's so hard. Assistants top level, they're really good, because obviously communication kit. So sometimes you'll get the assistants, the semi-active assistants will give you the information on when that ball's being played. Then they can focus, the other assistant, the active assistant, can focus on the line. But then you're also relying on that assistant who's giving the information being accurate. I think it's an art in yourself, and at least, you know, not just on offsides. I think as an assistant referee, you're confined to one half of the field, so yes, you'll do less running, but at the same time, if a player's got an grievance with you, you've got to know where to run. If someone's coming shout at me, I have to run out the way, assistant referee can't. So now it's totally different. Credit to them, because I think they do a cracking job, but it's not something.
I think on VAR, we know we had a question. Has the implementation of VAR made referees more indecisive in the game? With your perspective on that?
No, I don't think indecisive. And that's my perspective. I think a referee will want the mindset that VAR's there, but I think VAR should be used as a safety net. And I don't think. Obviously, I've done certain training on VAR. I've never done a live
game with VAR.
A live game with VAR. So you know, I can only speak on what I think. But I think a referee will go out there and do exactly the same job, but knowing that if there's a perceived error there, that there's a safety net of VAR being there. And I think referees in this country are in a good place for that, because ultimately it is all about getting the decisions right. So if they're sent to the monitor, if they've got to refer, you know, a certain decision, well, if there's an opportunity to get that decision right, they'll happily have that. You know, referees don't go out there to willingly make mistakes. You know, mistakes are going to happen. It's like I said before, it's the nature of the beast, it's the nature of the competition we're in. But I think as referees will just treat it as normal as they can. You know, go out and referee the game exactly how they would, but they know that they've got the safety net there if it's required, if it's needed.
Yeah.
So when we're saying about going over to the monitor, Have you ever sort of seen on TV and stuff like that where they have like slow motions and then still pictures? Do you feel like those sort of other ways of looking at the challenge make the challenge actually look worse than what it is in normal speed?
Yeah, I think what will always happen, or what tends to happen, if certainly in VR situations, is a referee or the VAR operator would want to see that challenge in real time first. Because referees judging that challenge on real time. I think the VR operator will judge that challenge on real time.
Yeah.
But if you have got the angles and you have got the technologies to show certain things, use them. But like you've said, sometimes a challenge can look worse on slow motion or a still.
Yeah.
So you certainly wouldn't use a still, but they would use certain angles. And I think if that technology is there, and the operators are superb, as in a sense of the VAR will ask, can you find me the best angle for this? Can you find me point of contact for this? But they'll not just use one certain aspect. That might just tick one box. There's got to be other boxes has to tick for them to come up with the decision. And ultimately, what we shouldn't get away from is VAR is not there just to re-referee a game. It's there just to help out for the clear and obvious errors. Which, like I said before, there's if there's that there to help you, why would you not want it? Certain decisions take a little bit longer than the other. Certain decisions are a little bit more complex than the other because you're not just maybe looking at the challenge for the penalty. You're looking at what comes before that. Is there a potential offside in the build-up? Has there been a foul in the build-up? So we're not just looking at the one particular incident. We're looking at everything else that goes with it. So I think in time, it'll be more transparent to fans what's going on. You may come a time where you'll be able to hear what the VAR is talking about and the dialogue between the VAR and the referee. And I really am, I'm a believer in the system. I think it's a fantastic facility, and it's like anything else. If you introduce something new into something, you may have a couple of teething problems. It may take a while.
You're always going to have that sort of
backlash
as well.
Of course you are. And you're going to have some people who's totally against VAR and they're not going to change their opinion on it, which is fine. But I just think if there's a tool there that can help and aid, and certainly with all the money involved and what's at stake, we've got like you said before, we've got some fantastic referees, but ultimately there still is going to be mistakes there. So if there's something there that can help us, why would we not use that?
Yeah, and on other technologies in sport as well, and in the championship, goal line technology, how's that been for you? Obviously it's been in the league for a couple of years now. Is that a revelation? Is it great having it? Or?
Yeah, we do our checks 1 o'clock before the game on a Saturday, so we make sure that the goal line's working. 999 times out of 1,000 it does. More than that, it's a really good piece of kit. We'd like to think we're always still switched on to a ball hitting the crossbar and potentially bouncing somewhere close to the line. But if we've got the technology to categorically tell us that has crossed the line, that hasn't crossed the line. Fantastic. And that's just coming in now. That's just seamless. That it's been in a few years now, but it's a piece of equipment that
reliably works.
People rely on it, reliably works, and supporters have accepted it, as part of the game. I think VAR, down the line will follow suit. It might take a little bit longer, but I think
I've said that before. I think if they held back a little bit on the implementation of VAR, just a little bit to make sure they've got all the teething issues sorted out before bringing it in. Because to me, I thought it was a bit rushed. VAR coming in. It's like if they sorted out just a little bit more and waited and then brought it in.
Yeah, you make a fair point in that, but I go back to no time potentially is a perfect time. I think if you held back, it's an option, but I still think you potentially have some teeth. It's like any new introductions to things. You're going to have teething problems along the way. I learned to drive at 17. If I held back until I was 29, wouldn't that make me a better driver? I think I would still have teething problems at 29, but I don't know. It's here, and I think it is. It's a good piece of kit. We just had a training tournament last week down at St George's Park where we got to operate as VAR
operators. Oh wow!
And referee with VAR. And I was more nervous in the VAR hub than I was refereeing, because you're refereeing, you're used to it. as a VAR, there's an expectation where you shouldn't miss anything.
It has to be right.
It has to be right.
Yeah.
You've got the monitor in front of you,
It has to be right.
and you're observing everything that's going on. You can zoom in, zoom out. You can see every perspective of it.
So you think, the eyes of the world's on you because you're expected not to miss a thing. So that comes with pressure.
Yeah.
But you've got an ear VAR, an assistant VAR, sat beside you. So if you're looking at something, there's a pair of eyes looking on live player as well. So it's a great piece of equipment. And I think I think before when there comes out a bit more transparency with supporters and they can understand a little bit more about it, I think it's people will accept it certainly more than they probably do at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Do you think that VAR will ever get introduced into the Championship?
I'd be surprised. I mean, I don't know, but I'd be surprised
if it did.
If it didn't. I think that's that's the way football is going at the moment, where it's just been introduced in Scotland.
Yeah.
They've took the time a little bit with it, and I think eventually, a lot of it depends on do the clubs want it. I think the clubs have got a big say in that matter. I think somewhere along the lines, I'd be surprised if it didn't didn't come into the Championship, and then if it's in the Championship a couple of further years down the line, you think will VAR come further down as well. I think that's the way football's going. And certainly Championship football, it is getting quicker. The players are getting more skillful. It's getting faster. Like I said, there's some massive clubs in there. So if I think the VAR comes in there, it can only aid what we do. I
mean, realistically, the Championship's a step down from the biggest league in the world. Yeah. So if you ever want sort of consistency and proper game, I mean, obviously I'm not saying that you don't have proper game management at all, but I'm saying like if you want like perfection to get into the literally the holy grail of football, you'd want VAR to help you out. And do you think that you'd want a referee with VAR?
I think it's a tool that can help us. I'd like that. Somewhere along the lines, I'd like to be given an opportunity to referee with VAR.
Yeah.
And like I said, I keep alluding to certain things, but I go out there to deliver a game of football to the best of the ability. We do all our preparation. We can do everything we need to do for that game. But ultimately, there's always going to be that human aspect of it. There's going to be where I potentially read something wrong than what I should have.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, the player might have run across my path at the moment in time when there's a challenge made.
Yeah.
I might be focused on something else, and something else can happen. So there's always going to be errors. So if there's something that can help us and improve, why would you not want to?
There's always going to be human element of errors when there's humans involved. We can't be perfect, or else what's the point in striving for perfection with all these bits of technology and stuff like that?
It's exactly that. And even now, when it comes to VAR, there's that human aspect to it.
Yeah.
It's an on-field call. Referees decide on-field that's not a penalty.
Yeah.
You can look at it and think, well, for me that is a penalty.
Yeah. Yeah.
But unless the footage shows you that's totally clear and obviously wrong, we don't want it to be. You've got to keep that human aspect of it.
You just get that split second to decide whether yes or no to a penalty or a red card or anything like that. Whereas guys sat in VAR get a couple of seconds and then they get all the images and then they go, actually, let's go and have a look at that sort of thing.
Of course it is, yeah, and that's what it is. And they'll only get you across, or they only recommend something if it's not really subjective. If it's a subjective decision, we'll steer with the referee. If you think it's a penalty, I don't. And there's grounds for both reasoning. That's subjective.
Yeah.
But if I give a penalty and there's no contact, the player's gone down under no contact at all. Well, that now not subjective. That's not a foul. That's an error.
Then you go over to the monitor.
You go across in the monitor, and they'll can refer you to an on-field review. So you'll go and have a look at the monitor, and they'll give you the angles. And normally, what they would tend to do is give you probably the best two angles of that incident. So they don't tell you what you're looking for, but when you go across the screen,
this is angle one, this is angle two. What do you think?
Yeah. What do you think? Yeah.
Who is it who runs the VAR room? Is it former referees? Is it current referee? Who is it?
Yeah, the VARs themselves are current active Premier League referees, or they just retired. Obviously, Mike Dean, Lee Mason, who's recently retired, they're still VAR. And then there's there's hub commanders, so ultimately they're all being involved in refereeing in some capacity or not. So it's the hub's run by referees.
Referees, yeah.
I know I've heard the argument of people said could players go in there and do it, but you listen to certain ones. I think I listened to something with Michael Dawson and Michael Dawson gone about VAR and should a former footballer be involved in a VR situation, and he says
no,
not at all. He says wouldn't touch it with a barge ball, because there's certainly loads of integrity goes into refereeing. That's one of our key values, integrity. So it's just a case of judging that decision on its own merit,
on its law,
and it's that takes a fair bit of training. It's former footballers becoming referees. No doubt about it, some will make good referees, but it's not just as easy as retiring from football and saying, right, there's a whistle, go and referee. Because you look at some players who've played the game, don't particularly become a good manager, or they don't want to go down that route. So there's no guarantees in saying they're going to be a referee. So they've got to they've got to put that graft in, that work in, that training into.
Well, you certainly never hear of any footballers who become referees, do you? Because I'm trying to think of one and I can't.
I can't think of one.
No, I think there's opportunities now within academies where a player may get to a certain age for whatever reason, may not progress further on, so they might go down the refereeing route.
Yeah.
But what's tended to be in the past is players may retire at 35, 36.
Yeah.
And then they've seen the pathway into refereeing is taking a little bit longer than they thought. And coaching, so could you possibly jump straight into a manager's job after do a coaching course on the side, jump into a manager's job after you retire? Refereeing potential, in the past is taking longer than that.
Well, there's a lot more to, I would say, refereeing than there is coaching in terms of picking it up. You've got to read the rule book, you've got to pass your tests. With coaching, you go get your badge, and it's your sort of interpretation of how you want to do your own tactics. You can go any which way you want, but when you're a referee, you have to abide by the book, you have to abide by the law. So if you're not fully trained in that, then you can't really progress that far.
And it's something totally different, isn't it? So if you're a footballer and you're going to management, it's something you've been used to. You can pass on your techniques, you can pass on your experiences to the next players. You're changing so totally if you then change to go refereeing. It's a whole different skill challenge. And like I said, you'll know after the first few months if refereeing's something for you. If it's not for you,
you know about it.
You will. You got to feel for it. You've got to have you certainly got to have thick skin. You've got to be prepared for challenging moments. Certainly when you first qualify, of like I said before, of what players might say to you, what might do, and the last thing you can do is react to a certain situation and inflame a situation. You've got to be good at trying to put the water on the fire, so to speak, and dampen things down and not inflame situations. So it's a challenge in itself. It's not for everybody.
Yeah. Have you done that before? Made a situation worse?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Certainly at the lower levels, you always think, oh well, I'm right here. I'm going to just argue for the sake of it.
Yeah.
I'm right, and by that time you've lost 11 players. You've lost the technical area, and your match control of that game is
gone.
Yeah. And it's so hard to get it back. If and we know that as referee, we tend to know if we've made an error there and then. We get a feel for it. We get a feel for how we've done. And the worst thing you can do is potentially lose a game in the early stages and try and bring that game back. So I don't think there's any harm in if we've made an error, providing it's not a penalty in the last kick of the game where there's something decided on it. But if we get a goal kick, corner kick wrong, for me there's no harm in backpedaling past the halfway line and say, fellas, I might have got that one wrong.
Yeah.
Or being honest with the player.
Yeah.
Not a freak. Sorry lads, I've read that wrong.
Yeah.
As long as you're not doing it every minute, because like, you've said that 26 times already. It shows you you're refereeing, but you can't always be right.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best thing is to be wrong to be right.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Yeah.
It's not all about we've got to know the laws of the game inside out. But sometimes it's more than that. It's more than how you can deal with a certain situation. How can you bring a situation that's up there bring it back down to where you need it to be. How you get on the players' wavelength.
Yeah.
So it's,
So you said like the best way is just honesty. If you're honest with a team, they're going to respect you a bit more. So when you actually do make the decision the next time, they're just going to be a bit more accepting of it. In terms of acceptance, who or what team do you think has ever been the hardest you've ever refereed, or can you not really go into that?
I wouldn't say. I think every team will have individuals, so I don't think it's a team thing. I don't think it's if I give a decision against a team, that team think the world's against
them. Referee again, yeah.
I think it's a lot of it is it's individual based. So without going into certain names, there is some players who are tricky to deal with the normal, and you try and get on their wavelength, and you try and explain a certain decision, and for whatever reason they don't want to accept that, which is fine. It's a game of personalities.
Yeah.
We're not going to get everybody. They're not going to get on me all the time. But I think as long as you can, if you make a decision, I think as long as there's a reason behind why you've made that decision, I think that's not be fully accepted all the time. But I think there's more of an acceptance with that. It's not just a case of a manager's got a cooling off period of 30 minutes after a game, so a manager can come in the changing room, and I've had some good discussions over the years with managers. Yeah. But I think the worst thing I can do is if a manager comes in after 30 minutes is argue black and blue that I'm right, because ultimately I haven't seen that decision back. They may have, when in fact the chances are they have. The analysts have showed them a laptop and said, this is the incident. Yeah. We haven't had that opportunity to see you back then. So it's just trying to not reason with them, but just trying to give an opinion of or be honest to why you've come up with that certain decision.
An explanation. Yeah.
An explanation for me. There's not enough contact for a penalty. Yeah. The attacker's put his leg across the defender. Yeah. If I've read it wrong, I apologise. Yeah. I'll reflect and I'll review that certain decision and ultimately feedback through the right channels. I can't pick up a phone on a Sunday morning and speak to a manager and say, look, I've got it wrong, but I can certainly see it to my organisation. Look, I think I've read that wrong. Is there any way we can get some feedback to the club? Yeah.
I mean, that sort of, again, that honesty again kind of gives a bit of respect with the club that you would have made the decision against, and then yourself, that they sort of see and that you've accepted that you've made the wrong decision.
Yeah. How are you going to improve if you're not honest to yourself in that sense? And what I always tend to be the best for me is, I mentioned I'll always have a Sunday off from football, and I think if I reflect on a Monday morning, then the emotion of that game is stemmed a little bit, because you're driving or maybe in the car for 4 hours after a game. You're still emotionally attached to the game. Yeah. You might stop at the surfaces and the highlights will be on, and you look at your phone and I'm happy with that. I'm right there. I don't know what the about there. But you're still emotionally attached to it. Yeah. So it's not until you look at it in the cold light of day. Yeah. And you think, right, let's have a look at it. It's this Saturday now, 2 days later. Yeah. Have I read that right? And I think that's when you tend to be more honest with yourself, and you can sit down with a colleague. We've got some good referees who I train with at my way, football league referees, championship referees, and what I'll tend to do, if I'm more emotionally attached to a certain decision, I just send them and say, look, can you have a look at this for us? Give us your opinion. And I think the good thing about a group would be honest. And we'll say, well, for me, Geoff, that's more a pen than not. So for me, that's not a red card, or whatever it may be. Yeah. Because they're not emotionally attached to that decision, they'll tend to see how it is, and then you go on that, and you still might disagree. I don't know what you're talking about, but the chances are not. Okay, I can see it exactly from where you're coming from, and it's how we improve, and it's how we get better at that.
Is there any difficult grounds to referee at? Obviously, we've talked about players, but is there any particularly fan bases or grounds that are difficult to be in?
There's some fantastic grounds. I'm a traditionalist. I love refereeing at some old-fashioned ground, City Ground and Hillsborough, and places like that. I think every ground can be difficult due to the spell of a game. I think when you've got all supporters in there together, no matter whether it be a ground with 200 supporters in or a ground with 22,000 supporters in, I think if you've not perceived to have read something right, I think you will have a difficult moment. I remember, refereeing in the Northern League and going to places like Dunstan Federation and Ashington and places like that, and you really knew you were in a game then, because if you got something wrong, they would let you know. Every Blythe Spartans, you go through the tunnel at the end of Blythe Spartans to the change room, and they'll be hammering on, they might have won 5-0 and everything's gone swimmingly. They'd still be banging on the tunnel, and because I've got the corner wrong. So no, I look at it in, like you said at the start, refereeing football's a supporters game. Supporters are a massive part of that. Love refereeing full stadiums and look at that as an opportunity. You get that nervous energy before the game. Yeah. And it sometimes can be easier if you get 20,000 supporters all shouting the same thing at you. It's just one noise.
At least you can hear it.
You can hear it. Yeah, you can hear it. And no, wrong. Some of the assistants will let us know. Can you hear what the call is? Yeah, I can hear it. They don't need you to tell us. But no, there's some really good traditional grounds, some modern grounds now in the game. But I think every ground it's all got its own individual personality, its individual atmosphere, all individual supporters. Yeah. So I'm probably sitting on the fence here. I don't want to probably name a certain club that I don't like going to, but I think it's what the supporters make of it.
Were those National League games the tougher games to referee then, compared to the Championship ones that you referee now? Were they harder to keep maintaining control of?
Yeah, different challenges for whatever reason. Was I the referee then as I am now? So no, there's a lot of learning still going on there. I was still developing, I was still learning, and I was coming up against probably players who've dropped out of the Football League down to the National League or the conference as it was then. You had some good old clubs in them leagues. Your York City of this world playing, and it was the style of football can sometimes be different. Whereas a lot was more direct. Don't get me wrong. Some of the I've seen some of the National League games now, and the football's it's unreal. It's come on tenfold since 15 years ago when I was refereeing there. But it used to be that more physicality in there. But it put you on your guard. It was a good learning. It was a good learning ground for us, and not just the National League. I felt the Northern League was a great tool for me coming up through the ranks, because there was some good football. There was some good footballers there, some good old pros. You used to get some good big crowds there, and I've got no doubt about it. By coming through them levels at that stage of my career, it certainly helped us. Refereeing where I'm refereeing now. Coming through them
kind of forced you to grow into the person.
Without a shadow of a doubt, it was sink or swim, in to some respect. It was a tough learning at the time. Like I say, I've already mentioned a couple of the teams you used to go to, but if you didn't get something right, it would you'd know about it. In some proper football, some proper games, some high level games, and you look at, digressing a little bit, but you look at the quality of the teams in the North East. How many times they've gone down and won the FA Vars and teams like the Sunday Cup teams. It's a hotbed of football in the North East, and I've got no doubt that's helped me.
Yeah.
On my refereeing journey, no doubt about it.
Who would you say is the best player you've ever sort of, technically, who's the best player you've watched whilst you've been on the pitch?
You look at certain players, and when Aston Villa were in the Championship,
Jack
Grealish of this world, when James Maddison was at Norwich, phenomenal players. Dele Alli, MK Dons, tremendous, and you can reflect on them. And you look back at the highlights and you think they were good, really good, but during 90 minutes you tend not to
notice it.
Not notice as much, because you've got your other priorities.
Yeah,
you're so focused on the game. Yeah. Even as fourth official.
Yeah.
So you're fourth official, and it's totally different to being sat in the crowd and watching a game. I was at Sunderland on Monday night against West Brom, and I noticed more from players at that moment in time is watching from the supporters as you probably do
as a referee
when you're involved. When you're involved in it, because you've got other priorities, you've got other focuses. You don't probably appreciate that little bit of skill as much as you would as a supporter. And you come off and you'll think, he's had a cracking game, him, or you'll notice if he scored a great goal. Yeah, of course you will. But it's other things that they tend to get involved with. Sometimes you don't notice that as much as being sat away from it, and you notice different things.
So apparently there was a penalty call in that West Bromwich versus Sunderland game towards the end. What was your opinion on that call? Did he get it right or did he get it wrong?
I think as a Sunderland fan, I think I think he got it right. I think the referee, he was a friend of mine. I think he had a cracking game. even though Sunderland lost, but
yeah,
you've got to be honest with that. You know, it's trying to take your blinkers off certain things and certain dynamics. I think the referee, he handled the situation very well on Monday night, and it's a game of opinions, isn't it? But like I said, you might have watched it, you might think that's a penalty. Yeah. For me, I didn't think it was. I think he's read it bang on. He's done well.
Well, there you go. I thought it would have been a different if I'm being honest, especially with the outcome of this goal.
What's the sort of best game that you've refereed then, like as a personal, like I've ref that so very well?
I think it's been milestones. Refereeing my first Football League game. Mm-hmm. Was Morecambe versus Hereford. I remember the game. It was about 14 years ago. Finished 2s apiece. I've had 3 cautions. I remember the game like it was yesterday. So that'll always stand in my memory. Been lucky enough to referee a couple of championship playoff games, which are good games. But I think it's no matter what game it is, you come off a game and you know if a game's gone well. Yeah. You know if a game could have gone better, but there's been so I think I probably refereed all in all probably over 1,000 games of football now, and I've always had little milestones, little things that I can reflect back on, look back on, and what may have been your biggest game probably wasn't your best game. Yeah. It's the local derbies. That's the sounds. I remember refereeing a game, go back to Northern League and refereeing Billingham Town versus Billingham Synthonia, twice in a season, and for me to get a local derby, the same derby home and away, that was fantastic for me. That was something that always stands out. Yeah. Football terms, championship or Football League, it's been involved in the derby games. It's nice to do that. It's been nice to be involved in the top of the league games, the top of the league championship games. But at the same time, if I'm giving a League 2 game, I'll give it the same focus, the same degree of preparation as I would any other game, because they deserve that. It's a game of football. So no matter what game it is, we've got to prepare. Yeah.
What are those playoff games like? Refereeing playoff games at Wembley.
I've never refereed a playoff game at Wembley. I've done the semi-finals.
Semis. Yeah, sorry.
I've been fourth official at Wembley in a playoff. They're just so nervous. They're nervous. Just the occasion, because ultimately, no matter what's gone on for the 40-odd games prior to this game,
it comes down
to this one.
Nothing matters now.
So clubs probably don't remember a decision that you made in August or November. They're going to remember a decision that's made in that 90 minutes
in the playoff.
So I think you've got to enjoy it. You've got to believe in your ability. Think, I've been given this game for a reason. I'm giving this game a merit because I'm good enough, so I'm going to go out there and deliver it. But there is a sense of relief when that 90 minutes is over, and you think, happy days, I've left everything out there. There's nothing there that I would do to change or do differently. I think the key is one of them ones, we don't want at the end of the game for somebody to point the finger at us or hammering the door down before we're leaving the game saying you've cost us this, you've cost us that. If we can come out of the game and get a corner wrong, couple of goals, throw-ins wrong, fine. It's the big decisions, we judge on the big decisions. So them games, it's like any other, but it's just that it's the stake. It's a stake. It's what's at stake at that game. It just gives you that more of that rush, that nervous energy more than anything else.
So you're talking about big games and big decisions and stuff like that. We obviously had the England versus France game. There was a lot of backlash towards Wilton Sampaio. What did you watch the game? I was travelling back.
I'm travelling back from a game of mine, so I seen bits and pieces of it. I think the calls that he made, obviously VR intervened on one of them on a penalty. I believe there's a potential penalty shout in the first half, which is subjective. Is it inside the area? Is it outside the area? So if it's deemed not to be inside, just out, then VAR can't intervene.
Could that then not go back to a free kick if it was still outside the area? It can't.
No, it can't.
Even if it's still a foul.
They can, if it's potentially, if it's a red card offence, so if it's denial, then they can look at that as a red card situation, but they can't go back and, because then in effect the re-refereeing a game. So if that was in the area and they deemed to be a penalty, VR can intervene, think it's a penalty. If they did or not, fine. But if it's outside the area, unless it's a red card offence, they can't.
They can't bring it back for a foul.
No, they can't bring it back for a foul.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
that was all my question when I was watching that game. I saw that and it was on Kane, and yeah, it was like probably like a centimetre outside the area, but it was a definite foul.
Yeah.
And, like he literally had his leg, he tripped him over completely.
Yeah.
So just because that wasn't in the area, that's now like not deemed as that you can't bring that back.
You know, they can't bring back give a foul.
Yeah.
It's just had it been in the area, yes. Look, if they deemed it to be a penalty, then intervene and give the penalty. But because it's outside, they can't go back and.
So is that because it's then too controlling of the game?
I mean, you could be re-refereeing the game as such. You could be looking at a load of potential free kicks, and that's not what VAR's there. VAR's there for the clear and obvious error.
Yeah.
They can't go there and just start awarding free kicks for opinionated things.
Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of subjective decisions there. I'm certain the referee will have had his own reason for either giving it or for not giving it.
Yeah.
And I think it's just important that we're patriotic. You know, I'm English. I want to see England progress.
Yeah.
And just trying to I suppose be level-headed to what is
to a degree.
Yeah, to that certain degree, and all I see is some of the decisions were subjective.
Yeah. Some of the decisions were subjective. That's all you can say.
That's all
subject.
Have you watched much of the World Cup?
I think the World Cup's been really good.
If you think the standard of refereeing's been good at the World Cup?
Yeah, I think that overall, I think the standard has been very good. And don't get me wrong, these referees are the best from their country.
Yeah.
They're deemed to be the best. All individual challenges. I've never refereed anywhere near a World Cup, but I've refereed in different countries. And you're presented with different challenges. You're presented with different languages, different styles of football, what different countries are used to compare to this country. So there's always going to be certain challenges in refereeing. Like refereeing two different continent teams that don't understand a certain way. So you've got to try and adapt as much as you can. But ultimately, referee how you referee to get you that position in the first place.
Yeah. So do you think as that referee that officiated the England versus France game, as he's Brazilian, and him officiating maybe in the Brazilian league, I'm not too sure which league he did officiate in, do you think he was just officiating to what he's used to then? And like the sort of challenges that were going in that game, he was going, right, okay, let these challenges slide at my level, so they're going to slide at this level, this is how I'm going to referee it? Or do they go, does the referees meet up before a game and go, look, this is what we're going to go to? Or was it just...
I'm certain they'll do the research, I'm certain they'll do the homework, there'll be analysts and everything there. First of all, the referee will have been given that game quarter-final on merit, so he'll have been performing during that tournament. If he wasn't perceived to be having a good tournament up to that moment, he wouldn't have been given a quarter-final tie, so he's earned the game on merit. And it's like everything else, you're always going to things in your best intentions, but what I think's right might be right for everybody. So I've no doubt he'll have done his homework on England versus France. He'll have his own style of referee, and then he may have to tweak certain things to that style, so he can handle and manage the game. Ultimately, he'll have gone out there believing what he was doing was right. Who's to say he's not? Obviously, a lot of England fans will say, they could have had this, they could have had that, they could have had the other, but he's given them games. He's given them decisions honestly, and if some people disagree with it, it's the nature of the beast. You're always going to have that.
Yeah.
Was that sat on the fence? Was that sat on the fence?
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think everyone's kind of got their sort of opinion on the game at the end of the day, and sort of like opinion on their own challenges.
Yeah.
Like you've said, football is a people's sport, isn't it? So everyone's gonna have their own views and think everyone always thinks their own opinion's right, don't they? So as soon as they're set in their ways, and then that's that.
Of course it is.
And that's what you hear from commentators after matches and stuff like that.
Of course, I've been sat in the sauna at David Lloyd's this morning, and multiple conversations about certain things, and it's good debate, and that's what it's all about. You know, it's being able to debate a certain thing, and have that conversation, and the referee's not always right. You know, we'll take that. You know, there's fans have got an opinion, supporters have got an opinion, everyone's got their own opinion, and my opinion might be slightly different to yours. Who's to say I'm right and you're wrong? It's what makes football great. It's what makes, in my opinion, refereeing great as well.
Yeah.
We're not robots. We're human beings. So.
Exactly. On debate, as we're coming to the end of the podcast, we've got a few shirts up here.
Yes.
And you can see we've got a Messi, Ronaldo, and a Jamal Lascelles top up there.
Ignore that. That wasn't my decision, that shirt over there.
There's a big debate between these two here, Ronaldo and Messi. Who do you think is the best in the world out of these two?
I think Messi's had a fantastic tournament. I think he's been,
top quality this tournament so far.
He was, a 35-year-old. I thought he was different level last night.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you watch that game last night?
Wow. Without doing, he didn't need to do an awful lot of running, did he?
Yeah.
Really, just use his skill and his expertise. And
he's 35 and can manoeuvre his body that well, that athletically, and that
against a 20-year-old centre half.
Yeah. Unreal, just tremendous player. Likewise, Ronaldo as well. Yeah. He's achieved so much in the game.
Yeah.
His standards keep getting higher and higher and higher. But I must admit, I enjoyed watching Messi yesterday.
So your final answer is Messi's the best.
I enjoyed watching Messi. I enjoyed watching Messi yesterday. And I used to like Barcelona when I was growing up as well. So.
We're Messi fans and Barcelona fans. So it's 2-0 to Messi so far on the guests. And
we'll send it to Bar. We'll send that one to
And then the final question from me is we kind of do this with every single person that we've had on so far, with Craig as well. Who is the most famous person that you know?
Most famous person I know?
Yeah. Craig went along the lines of in his phone booth, but most famous person you know.
I went to school with Jordan Henderson. Jordan Henderson was the same school as me.
No way.
Yeah.
Do you know what? That's a small world, because my nana and granddad actually babysat Jordan Henderson as a kid.
There you go.
Swear down.
So it's the most famous person you know as well?
Well, I don't technically know him, or else he'd be on the podcast. But technically, in a way I know him. But yeah.
Obviously, refereeing a few behind closed doors games at Sunderland in the time when Jordan was there. So going to the same school, and he used to go to David Lloyd as well at the time as well.
Did he?
So, he did.
Tell you what, this is such a small world.
Maybe David Lloyd might be another name at that time.
I can't remember version or whatever it was at that time. But yeah, I mean that wraps up the questions from me. Have you got any other questions?
Are you happy?
More than happy.
Have you got any questions that you
No, I think I've been grilled enough, so that'll leave it at that.
Lovely stuff. So links to our TikTok, Instagram are down below. If you want to go check them out, be much appreciated. Leave any comments that you might want to ask Geoff, and I might ask them if I see him again in the club. But yeah, no, other than that, thank you very much for watching.